good question, because that is going to more than likely change going in the future.
Tim? And then Colin, yes.
I'm chaplain at Columbia St. Mary's as well, and what we're observing there is they move from the ER up to the hospital itself, remaining on observation for a couple of days before they do the admission, and they then release under the observation status. And that's one of the problems we're running into.
Absolutely. That's a perfect example of how the playing field is changing.
Steve, I have a question. In the previous slide, okay, because of the additional stay at the hospital, have you seen the contract with hospital and skilled nursing care to move the patient out of there and moving into, or how does it work?
Not really contractually, but they just want to be sure that the case managers, the docs want to be sure that the people that they're moving out, that you can take care of them.
So they basically come on Medicaid?
Yes,
or
yes.
Medicare, other.
Well,
And part of what we're going to talk about here a little bit about is Medicare Advantage.
yeah, and to answer Rahini's question, Pat Joni and I just toured the geriatric nurse practitioner yesterday. She will be following post-acute stays in those DRG categories that are at risk. So there'll be a clinical pathway from the hospital right into our community here. And she's at, Pat, how many other places? Right now she's only at 2 or 1?
2 or 3.
But CSM is aggressively going after GMPs. They're going to have 5 of them on their staff, following those average of 30 people in the community, making sure there's a good clinical pathway attached to that.
Okay.
That's it exactly, because they want to be sure that those people aren't going to be kicked back. And the best way to do that is to integrate the care with the hospital and the nursing facility. You know, historically, the hospital just pushed them out the door, didn't worry about them anymore. Well, again, that's changing when we get into some of the accountable care type slides we're going to talk about here. You'll kind of see how that's changing for the hospital as well. We've got to change our business model. The hospitals have to change theirs.
I'm just wondering, is that nurse practitioner going to help with the transition from observation to inpatient stay for the 3 guys to qualify for the summer
Well,
camp?
that's our job. We on 2 separate occasions, Bonnie, that I'm aware of that you've talked to me about, we advocated on behalf of the patient to get them admitted.
Right.
And oftentimes, after 2 days of observation, they will admit. Medicare allows that admit to retroactively take those observation days and roll them into the qualifier. That's a federal law. They can do that as long as it's within that one admission. They can roll the observation days into the total. We just have to be advocates for our residents.
All right, Colin, I'm on slide 23, Medicare Advantage.
Okay. Medicare Advantage penetration, we analyzed that for your median area. This is January 2014 information. This is updated on a monthly basis through CMS. Medicare Advantage is a type of Medicare health plan offered by a private company, and they contract with Medicare to provide you those services. In Monty County, roughly 34%, or 1 in 3 Medicare beneficiaries, is actually part of a Medicare Advantage plan. So Knox County is a little bit lower, 30%, but Salem County is very high at almost 35%. National average is 29%. This has been increasing. We're seeing a higher percentage of people going into Medicare Advantage plans. This is important because Medicare Advantage, we need those contracts in order to admit a person that's a Medicare Advantage payer. If we don't have those contracts, then we're not able to admit that person. So when we were looking at our overall subacute average daily census, that's overall Medicare, fee-for-service, and Medicare Advantage opportunity. As we can see here, a significant number of people living in the area are actually Medicare Advantage. If we look at an actual distribution of your discharges, roughly 3/4 of the numbers we looked at would be Medicare fee-for-service, and the other 25% would be Medicare Advantage. So out of the 237 average daily census we looked at in slide 20, roughly 75% would be fee-for-service. So that's about 178, and the remaining would be Medicare Advantage. So what this really tells us is if we don't have any Medicare Advantage contract, we're not competing for 237 people, we're competing for 178.
Thank you, Colin. And that's a business decision, Milwaukee Catholic Home's got to make on do you want to get into those contracts? Because a lot of times they don't pay very well either. So it's all about risk. All right, any further questions on this aspect? Yes, sir.
Tim, do you see any changes coming about as a result of Obamacare?
Absolutely, and we're gonna talk some of the high level aspects of that and what it means to our business. Absolutely. We're gonna touch on that shortly. Anything else for Colin on the analytics with hospital discharges?
Would you try to staff up capacity-wise for the top 6 or 7 discharge codes? Those being the largest percentage and possibly the toughest to handle?
Absolutely.
That's where there are more margins there?
Yes.
You want to show a better batting average in that upper tier?
Absolutely. And you want the docs to feel comfortable. You want case managers to feel comfortable that you can take care of that person who's got that DRG code, but also all those comorbidities. So it's you know better than anybody. The type of people we're taking care of is getting sicker and sicker, and the hospital wants to be darn sure that we can take care of them. And as health reform continues to move throughout the system, hospitals are getting smarter every single day on who are they going to pick. Allina Health System up in Minneapolis, for example, has decided as a health system, and they 4 or 5 hospitals, but really what they want is they're going to start building their own transitional care units. So they're going to be able to manage their total population, which means there's a lot of nursing homes in Minneapolis, St. Paul that are surviving on discharges from Allina Hospital. They won't be getting them anymore. That would be like Columbia St. Mary's saying, you guys are great, you're right here, but we're gonna do this business ourselves, and it would shut off the flow of customers. That's why we just need to continue to progress and get better at what we do every single day, so the hospital is comfortable on those types of services we offer. All right, Colin. Thank you, sir.
Great. Thank you for everybody's time.
Okay, we're going to talk a little bit now about some of the other service lines you have here at Milwaukee Catholic Home, independent living. There's a whole lot of information in the actual written document, but I'm going to give a high level aspect here. We're going to look at how much new independent living could this market absorb, and it's both in terms of unit potential if we were to build brand new, or there's also saturation, which I'll talk about in a minute. But when we look at independent living, really the methodology is how many households are old enough, age qualified, and income qualified in order to be able to afford the cost structure you have here at Milwaukee Catholic Home. What we've got is, if we look at households over age 75, there's roughly 7,800 households over age 75. Of those 7,800 households, there's roughly 1,100 that are old enough, have sufficient incomes to afford the monthly service fees, and also own a home. So we've taken out anybody who doesn't own a home. Does that mean that person cannot afford the type of lifestyle here? Absolutely not. And I think I've got in a different slide, your market area has a pretty high incidence of renters. Typically, you see, and you probably see this out in more of the suburban areas, but roughly 80% of elderly households own their own home. It's only 50%, 60% here in your market area. And again, that doesn't mean that the renting population, along here, for instance, doesn't have the means to afford independent living here. It's just we want to be conservative, so we only look at those who are income qualified and own their own home. And for an income qualification, we used $50,000 a year roughly, and that assumes that a person has